Hey, girl. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
What do we say? The stars always align, right?
Yeah. What do you think this sculpture's going to do for people when they see it?
The feeling that, that there's people out there that understand.
Yeah, they're not alone.
They're not alone. Yep.
I hope I was able to give them that.
Oh, I have no doubt you did. No doubt at all. You talked me into doing this, so...
I think you've kind of come and gone a few times off that track. Like, do I really want to do this?
Yes, I have.
You must have had some reason you needed to stick around, so I'm glad you did.
I am 100% in.
You did a good job.
So did you. You keep up the good work, sweetie.
All right, talk to you later.
Yep, see you.
See you, bye.
Bye.
I don't know if it's okay to share this, but I made him promise that he wouldn't hurt himself, so that when this guy moves around, that he will be a man people can turn to. And he said he had to think about it. And he called me back a couple days later, and he said he'd thought about it. And he said he was willing to step forward and to be that man. I don't know if it will feel really familiar to many veterans. I hope so, so that they know that they're not alone. I'm hoping that this will sort of be a bridge to that place, because people don't know what to say.
In between initial thought and spoken word, the artist discovers her muse, her voice.
And that's where art comes in, is that it fills in places where words just don't live.
Anita Miller's voice suggests a hint of humanity.
Oh my gosh, my knees are not happy.
Served with a hefty dose of humility.
You know, I'm a painter. I'm familiar with paint, so sculpture is kind of new for me.
The Colorado transplant, one-time Ohioan and hypnotherapist by trade, has never done this. A sculpture this big, this bold.
Oh, it just moves right down into the pec.
More trial by whim than trial by error.
And then I wanted to see her hands. Let's see this one.
He is a stand-in, a model, lending so much more than a hand to a project.
Super helpful to see. And the hands are such a big part of these veterans' stories because of the pain they experience.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, I know.
A project that wound its way into Anita's mind shortly after she spoke by phone to a veteran she knew simply as Brian.
This is the guy.
Yeah.
So let's see. I have his hands.
Brian. This is his vision, an image in his mind of what war can on occasion do to others, of what war almost certainly did to him.
This image is an image that he shared with me, that he wanted people to understand a little bit about what it feels like.
What it feels like. She sensed it from the first moment of their first conversation.
The day I called him, he said, was the day he was going to end it. He said, well, isn't that odd that you would call me on this day? I said, why? What's this day? He goes, it was going to be over today.
And thus, the promise. Promise me, Brian, she said, you'll stay with us, and I'll promise to complete your vision. This vision.
Coming back from a mission and seeing his friend looking at the dog tags of his brothers that were just lost that day.
Not all veterans suffer from PTSD. Few will ever consider suicide. But last year, the Veterans Administration concluded in its most exhaustive study to date that every day, on average, 20 veterans decide to end their own lives.
Brian was really suffering a lot. He suffers all the time with a lot of pain as a result of his service.
Miller, a mother, began this project knowing it would take years to complete. Every detail would matter, every one, for Brian and for the countless others.
And I think about the longing, the really incredible longing that a mother has for their child after they've passed. It's not something I can work on all day long, every day. You know, I've got to take a break.
A weight measured less in pounds and more in sheer volume.
There's just no words sometimes for the pain. There's like nothing to say sometimes. So maybe this will speak.
Where words fail. For Anita, it just might feel like an artistic case of deja vu. Long before Boulder, and more than a decade ago, these were the faces Anita couldn't ignore.
But we were the most heavily engaged unit in the Iraq War at that time. We were there for 8 months.
Lima Company, 3rd Battalion, 25th Marines, all from Ohio. In 2005, the unit, once known as Lucky Lima, lost 23.
This guy right here on the right was leaning right next to me, shoulder to shoulder.
Mike Straley,
And it threw both of us right out of the roof.
served alongside them in Iraq.
I was very lucky. So,
Odd to think, he says, when he's here, he's still serving.
I mean, these are my guys. What better job could I have? If roles were reversed, they would do the same for me.
1, 2, 3 Christophers. Nicholas, Michael, Aaron. Lima was a unit hit as hard as any in the war.
Yeah.
The vision for this hit Anita one sleepless night
That's when I lived in Ohio.
not long after Columbus, Ohio learned of the extent of its loss.
You know, in the vision that I saw it with the boots and a candle.
Oh, you did with that, yeah.
It was a year in preparation and about a year and a half of painting.
She contacted their families, asked questions. Tell me about your son, his hopes and fears and dreams.
And I would get wedding pictures and baby pictures, and they would sit with me for hours. The families, they started coming one by one, and the more they came, they began to feel their son's presence there in the studio. It wasn't my energy that was leading it, and I still feel that.
Unveiled in the Ohio State House Rotunda in 2008, the exhibit has toured the country ever since.
The company had 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and weapons platoons, so we had 4.
Mike Straley joined
I was 1st.
as its director.
1st platoon, 1st squad.
Is there any one guy that stands out to you?
Anita giving me an opportunity to further serve with my guys is something that I'll never be able to thank her for, in words or otherwise. From getting to know her, she was basically called to do this.
Called to do this. Mike says in each life-sized painting, he sees things Anita never could have known.
And that's exactly how she painted him smoking.
Take Staff Sergeant Anthony Goodwin.
She didn't have any pictures of him smoking at all. And he was a constant smoker.
Yet in here, their eyes seem to say the most.
I mean, just being around this and being around the guys has been very healing for me.
The eyes provided the most obvious of names, the eyes of freedom.
I think you can almost feel your heart beginning to expand when you're in here, can't you?
An exhibit that one day welcomed a reluctant visitor named Brian when it and its staff toured a rural part of Minnesota.
He was, as he says, at the very bottom. So when he came in, they recognized his tremendous pain. He shared with them that many of the guys that he had served with had committed suicide, and he was in a very bad place himself.
It's almost like there's a poison inside of you that you cannot get rid of. And you don't see anything going on around you. You get very, very narrow vision. I didn't see the change in myself. Everybody else did. You realize that you're not the person you want to be or the person that you are. And you let yourself down and those around you.
Brian Zimmerman served decades ago in a war that gets little attention these days.
It was a mess.
1991, Operation Desert Storm, the road out of Kuwait and into Iraq, a road some call
It was a battle.
the highway of death, a lopsided and violent victory for the U.S. military.
We took thousands and thousands of prisoners. There were so many of them that we just kept going and leaving them behind us. No. Nothing really kicked in for a long time. And I think that's the way it is with a lot of guys. It's been a slow creep through all the years, but it really started to progress, I would say, about 5 years ago.
Brian, the owner of a family-run window blinds company, noticed it first in some of his fellow veterans, then reluctantly in himself.
I still lose sleep every night. I still have horrible dreams, but I'm dealing with them different now.
The day he walked into the eyes of freedom, Mike Straley, the exhibit's director, saw pain
You struggle.
in the eyes of Brian.
When I walked in there, I wanted to run out, and I turned around to walk out, and Mike was standing behind me. And he gave me a big hug, and he said, "Just take it all in, brother." And he didn't know me at all, but he could tell from the look on my face what I was feeling.
This might be easier for people that have more experience.
If old habits are hard to break, old painting aprons are just as hard to wash.
It's the only one. It was an old tablecloth, and I sewed it. Now I'm attached to it.
A link between Eyes of Freedom, the old exhibit, and what she hopes will become the new.
I feel like I'm sort of getting to know him. Although he's powerful and a strong man, his spirit is just so heavy.
A physical recreation of their initial conversation that came at the urging of her exhibit staff.
So I called him, and he shared a lot about his own story and about the pain that, not only the physical pain, but the emotional pain of losing his friends and watching his friends die from suicide, not from combat, but from combat-related stress. He said he felt that this pose would help his fellow veterans to know that they're not alone. So Brian is the inspiration. This is his story.
I feel 20 years, 30 years older than I am. My joints hurt all the time. Get muscle spasms a lot.
And then we'll go up this way.
There's lots of inflammation in the body. And there's some days I can't even hardly get out of bed. I got to roll out of bed. So they're just trying to figure out what it is.
Just multiple points in the body with swelling and pain and stiffness. Sometimes he's unable to sleep due to the pain. So the search seems to always be continuing.
Brian Engdahl studies the brains of Desert Storm veterans for a living. A war far too many assumed carried with it no lasting impact.
They said, that war was short, we won, what's your problem?
As one of the country's leading researchers into Gulf War illness, he says Brian and thousands of others who served in 1991 still suffer from mysterious pain and swelling.
There was a sharp and clear change in their ability to sleep, to think, to be free from pain.
Okay, we are ready for the next one.
While much of Gulf War illness remains medically unexplained, according to the Veterans Administration, Engdahl knows it exists because he sees it in their brain scans. And in people like Brian, he senses it in their thoughts.
The thought of self-harm, the thought of suicide is very real.
When you're in pain every day, you can't get away from the war. You think about it every time you're in pain. What happened to us over there? Why are we like this? And so you relive the war every single day that you're in pain, and we're in pain every day.
My role is to make visible the invisible. Yeah, I don't have any illusion about fixing anything, because that's for people that really know what they're doing. You know?
Promises made mean little without promises kept.
Even if there's this slight hope that you think you're going to be able to help somebody, you can't really walk away with good conscience. It just will keep nagging at you. I'm going to work on your back some more. And maybe that was it. Maybe just there was this enough of a hope that said, oh, maybe I really could make a difference. I'd like to think that somebody else would come along, and I guess that's always the hope, right? Well, if I don't do it, somebody will do it. But you can't say that all your life. At some point in time, you have to be the one that does it, I think.
Anita's amazing. Her art heals. There's no two ways about it. It's a blessing and an honor that Anita asked me to do this, but it's also very scary. I don't want to lose anybody else. I'm tired of it. Tired of hearing the next one down. I just knew how bad I felt inside. And that's all changed.
And I can get the conversation started. You know, we can put this out there and I can get the conversation started. Hold the door open for that to happen. And then I think the part that I understand now much more is that I have to then let go and let it be.
It is a sculpture.
I could work on this the rest of my life and never think it's done.
A sculpture Brian has yet to see.
Yeah, I'm kind of nervous.
Do we have a plan yet where we're going to unveil this? It reaches out to everybody.
Oh, heck yeah.
Should work out good.
You did a good job.
So did you. Way better than me.
Your service isn't done yet, clearly. You must have had some reason you needed to stick around, so I'm glad you did. Do you still debate that, or are you done debating that question?
I am 100% in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian Zimmerman deliberately chose to wait until this day.
The more people we can help, the better off. And I know that.
Lewiston made sense, as it too had recently struggled with veteran suicide.
Lewiston's an overgrown small town. There's a strong patriotism, a lot of military honor. It was 9/11. We turned the TV on when we saw the plane hit the second tower. And he went to school, but before he left, he said, I'm going in the military so people don't drive planes into our buildings.
6th grade.
6th grade.
He knew that there was a power behind being a soldier.
He wanted it because he knew in his heart that's what he had to do. That's what he wanted to do, and that's what he's always wanted to do.
Ian Curtis
That's him right there.
served his country in both Iraq and Afghanistan, primarily on howitzer duty. He returned removed. His family saw it. His mom saw it.
He was jumpy. He was self-medicating with alcohol.
Mentally and physically, it was very challenging for him.
His wife and mother to his young son saw it as well.
Yeah, he was a lot different when he came home.
His obituary was blunt, direct.
That was important to me, to let's be real about this, people. Let's just be real. This is suicide. This has to do with what happens to our young men and women in some really awful situations.
Being in the home when it happened, having flashbacks and stuff that I have all the time, bad dreams. It's not easy, but I just got to learn to cope with it because I have a son that can't see me like that.
It's time that we all step up and start helping each other, because if we don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. Every week, I'm talking probably at least once, twice a day with veterans that I don't know. I feel like I need to help them. I've been in their shoes. The low points are when you don't want to live anymore and everybody around you knows it, but nobody wants to think it.
For Brian, there's just one more thing to do.
I have no idea what to expect. His is an evolution. It's almost as if it's the evolution of healing.
An evolution that started 2 years ago, with Brian unwilling to even discuss just how far he had fallen.
No. I don't want to talk about that.
Has now turned into the start of a conversation.
And I was in a hole that I could not climb out of. And now I feel like I've climbed out of it.
He said, because the first step in healing is knowing that you're not alone. And he said, I guarantee you that everyone that sees this is going to understand that they're not alone, and that other people feel the same way, and they don't have to do it alone.
I did this for some very, very close guys that I served overseas with, and to help people not do what they did. And it's going to be their faces I see. So yeah, it's going to be emotional.
Come right up in front. You see him right in the face.
This isn't just about me, it's about everybody that's suffering from it. You pull it.
You pull it off.
I'm waiting for this brother. I know. Wow. You hit it. Better than I thought you could.
Really?
Yeah. I love it.
Good.
I really do. I gotta show you something. This is the first one of us out of my unit that killed themselves.
Is that your friend?
It's one of the best friends of my life.
It looks like him.
Yep.
It looks like his...
Yeah.
It looks like his face.
I know.
You never showed me that.
No, I had a buddy send it to me last week.
No way.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. It's his nose?
Yeah.
It's his forehead?
Wife and 2 kids.
Oh my gosh. Oh jeez.
Anita sculpted this, knowing different people would see different things.
She's never seen that picture before. Not many people have.
Brian's friend. A picture so personal, he wouldn't even show it to us.
Families will be able to come to it. It'll be a good thing for everybody. So, it's not a pleasant conversation, but we're there. Let's get the conversation rolling.
A 2-year journey.
It takes great courage to open one's heart. He was willing to share with me enough of his story so that I could translate what he did and what he felt and what he feels every day into something physical. So to me, he is the greatest model of strength and of courage, because to stand with an open heart and share is, to me, the most courageous thing that can be done.
Where this goes from now, no one knows. This physical interpretation of a feeling, a thought.
It's like a receiving line.
Oh.
Everybody's coming up to touch it.
But what started with that phone call and a promise now promises something else.
And you have to talk about it, because if you internalize it, it destroys you. It absolutely destroys you.
We already know.
Yeah?
It's saved at least one life.
You could say that.
And Brian now knows.
My son lost a silent battle, and I want to thank you for your service.
Now knows it has the potential to do so much more.
And I'm glad your mom has you.
I'm sorry.
No, it is at peace.
Thanks to people like the mother of Ian Michael Curtis.
I'm sorry for your loss.
I appreciate your bravery. This is
It
a big
isn't-
deal.
It's not bravery, it's just somebody had to step up and do it.
Stepping up.
When Anita talked, she said something about come up. And it's a magnet, and energize it. And I embraced it for my son. And I wanted to have that love matter, you know.
In the space between thought and word, some will find a voice.
Because if I can save one more family from having to deal with what I had to deal with, or the family dealing with what they had to deal with, it's very important to me that that happens.
Love you.
I love you too. You were strong. I tried. Don't let it stir up too much, okay?
Deep breaths.
I'm hoping that people will feel that this brings to life their own story.
Everybody knows there's something going on, but don't know what it is. And it's easier to ignore it than to face it.
It's all not for nothing, you know. Let this matter and take it forward.
Let this matter.
Let this matter.
Take it forward.
So that it's not for nothing.
If you know someone, or if you are that someone who needs help, don't wait.
Don't wait.
20 a day is far too many.
Let's change the number today.
Call 1-800-273-8255.
And press 1 to talk to someone.
Send a text message to 838-255 to connect with a VA responder.
Or go to this website, mentalhealth.va.gov.
You matter.
You matter.
You matter.
Your voice matters. So let this matter.